Sonic's cheeseburger and handmade onion rings have been a classic duo for years, almost as long as these classic duos we can't legally say, like Bonnie and Jekyll and Romeo and With Sonic's Car Hop Classic, you can get a cheeseburger and onion rings for $2.99. It's Hey, you weren't supposed to bleep that part out. Seriously? Can we stop with the bleeps? The Sonic Car Hop Classic for $2.99. It's That's worse. Okay, I kind of like that one. Tax not included. See menu for details. For a limited time only at participating Sonic drive-ins.
Hey everyone, lovely Laura here to tell you that old Bunkhouse Bob begged for a year to get turnbuckle cupcakes to make him a cupcake. And it was so good, he can't stop talking about them in 2017.
That's right, Laura. I mean, what could be better than watching wrestling other than watching wrestling and enjoying a cupcake from Brandy and Julianne at Turnbuckle Cupcakes?
You know, they have other things too, Bob. Crochet items, cupcake clip shirts, and much more. Endorsed by wrestling fans and wrestlers from around the globe. It's a no-brainer, which should make it easy for you.
I'm a wrestling genius, not a confectionery consultant. Folks, find Turnbuckle Cupcakes on Facebook or visit them at www.turnbucklecupcakes.storeenvy.com.
This is Bunkhouse Bob.
And the lovely Laura.
Live from the Armory Wrestling Show. Folks, we're heard on more platforms than an Olympic diver. FNX.network, iTunes, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio. You can't turn a corner without running into one of us, and you'd rather run into me than you would Laura.
Ain't that the truth?
Wednesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, live from the Armory Wrestling Show, the premier podcast of independent wrestling. You better listen.
Whoop-whoop.
Welcome to Live from the Armory Wrestling Show, the premier podcast of indie wrestling.
Hey, Matt, I'm on my best behavior, Scout's honor.
Okay, that's good, Laura. If you want to refer to me anyway, just use the term Your Grace. That'll totally make everything fun. Thank you.
Our studio line is area code 213-816-1605. With your host, Bunkhouse Bob.
A rambling 8.5-minute promo where he wants to attack and wrestle the entire state of Alabama. And I'm like, oh my God.
And the lovely Laura.
And I know a lot of people you're not objective where Caleb is concerned. That's fine. I don't care.
True.
You can say that all you want. I don't give a shit.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Live from the Armory Wrestling Show. My name is Bunkhouse Bob, and I'm the co-host of this program. Filling in tonight again for the lovely Laura will be the co-executive producer of this program, Mr. George Coles, and he'll be joining me in just a moment. Folks, this is episode 189 of Live from the Armory Wrestling Show. Come up in the 7:30 hour from WildKat Sports. Mr. Jonny Flex will be joining us. Very excited to have Johnny on the show. If you're not familiar with them, you need to check their stuff out on WildKat Sports has a YouTube page. We'll get into all that stuff. You need to check out Jonny Flex and the Pump Patrol, and we're going to talk to him about all that stuff coming up here at about 7:30. Folks, again, we thank you very much for listening tonight, no matter how you're listening to the show. If you're listening as we do this thing live on Blog Talk Radio, you can catch us on iTunes, on Stitcher, on YouTube, or if you go over to www.fnx.network. I was just over there today, folks, checking out a few things, and very, very pleased, very humbled. I want to thank you all for your support, your continued support of this program. We appreciate you taking time out of your day, your evening, your week, your whatever, to check out this show and check out all the great guests that we try to bring you each and every week from the world of independent wrestling. This show 100% supports hashtag Project Kindness. You go over to my Facebook page or Laura's or George's. You can connect with a couple people that are on our friends list. If you look up Steve or Lala Wilkins on Facebook, they can give you information about hashtag Project Kindness. This show also supports Ignite Advocacy. If you go to www.ignitewrestling.com, or you can go to Facebook as well. They have a page there, Ignite Advocacy. They also have the Ignite Wrestling page on Facebook. Check out all the good work that Ignite Advocacy is doing in the state of Florida. And folks, the most important thing for you to know tonight is this. While some of you are extremely pumped for the Pumpkin Demon versus Sister Abigail, Mr. Coles and I are more excited for, what are we more excited for? I don't know. Probably it's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. I don't know. Mr. Coles, you excited for the Great Pumpkin or the Demon Pumpkin?
I'd rather watch the Great Pumpkin for the 150th time.
Yeah, whoever did that makeup job should be fired. What in the hell is that?
You know, and the
Pumpkin Demon.
Who wore it better, Finn Balor or Sage Sin Supreme?
That's what
I'm going.
I tweeted her that this morning. I said that's gimmick infringement, blatant. He needs to file a cease and desist with the WWE for that. Absolutely crazy.
I'm gonna go with her because she makes it look better, and it's more fitting to her gimmick, I believe.
Yeah, I think she's been the Pumpkin Queen longer than he's been the Pumpkin Demon. We'll put it that way. How are you tonight, Mr. Coles?
I was doing great till you brought up to how the WWE mistreats and misuses two fantastic wrestlers.
No, we're not going to get on the I hate the WWE bandwagon this week. We can't do that, George. There's a lot of people.
Oh, no,
the WWE does what they do.
Well, speaking of what they do, Mr. Delph, and segueing that, let's talk about our Twitter poll for the week. Is the WWE about to face a mass exodus?
A mass exodus. Are we on Twitter, Mr. Coles?
Oh, we are.
Where are we at on Twitter?
Oh, you know what? I forgot to say all that. You got me all riled up, Bob. You got me worried about Demon Kings and Pumpkin Lattes and the Pumpkin Patch with Charlie Brown. But you can check us out at From the Armory on Twitter. My own personal page is at Heel Heat Show. Bob's is at Bob_Delph. And the lovely Laura's is at Circle Sky. Please send her your hugs and wishes and love and care. And while you're at it, check out, I believe it's at TR Fargo for our good friend Triple F. Send him some love out there. Just search up Triple F. I might not have that right, but send him some love. He's in need of it right now. We won't get too much into his personal life, but just send him love. And also, while we're talking social media, before we get to the poll, you can find us on Facebook. We have two places there, the official Live from the Armory page and also fans of Live from the Armory. See, Bob, this damn pumpkin, you screwed me over. I'm going to turn into a pumpkin at midnight.
It's the Great Pumpkin, George Coles.
The fans of Live from the Armory. It's a closed group. However, we will let you in as long as you're respectful and treat it with class. No Harvey Weinstein's in there. Just getting that out there, Bob.
Yeah.
You can also find us.
Not my name.
I'm just saying, me and Bob both are saying, as a team, no Harvey Weinstein types. We both agree on that. And last but not least, you can find us on YouTube to search up Live from the Armory. And going from that, Bob, into a terrible segue.
Yes, terrible segue. We have a format that we follow every week, George Coles. Every week.
I'm telling you, you got me all hyped up with this pumpkin lattes and
spiced pumpkin and pumpkin spice.
Pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin Pie.
Smashing Pumpkins and Billy Corrigan. And
all.
Now my brain's
all
going in all different directions.
I know. Twitter poll, Mr. Coles. The results of our Twitter poll.
Back to the results of our Twitter poll. Is the WWE about to face a mass talent exodus?
Yeah.
We've got some results here. 13% says it'll be nobody's. 23% say no, it's a dream job. And the overwhelming majority at 64% say yes, they are frustrated. Which I tend to agree. I think me and you have both talked about it. They have over 100 wrestlers under contract, and there's just not enough space, even with all the time they have. I mean, look at all the British guys. You don't see them hardly ever on TV, or the countless other guys. The Sin Cara, I forgot Sin Cara was employed by them until I seen him on TV last night.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and I know that people are going to be like, well, what do you mean by mass exodus? And I don't know if it's necessarily a mass exodus, but it's obviously that people are frustrated. You had Austin Aries, which I'll speak about in a little bit. You had Neville, and now Nia Jax has evidently taken some type of personal leave of absence. It's been rumored that she's not happy. And here's the thing is that I think a lot of it has to do with Nia. It seems to me it's like, the booking, it's like, so close yet so far away. And I get the idea that we need to develop the storyline, but I think that some of the people that are on the roster are just like what the fans are. They've grown so accustomed to these fast-paced storylines that when the payoff isn't there, all of a sudden, it's the Steve Austin syndrome. I'm going to take my ball and go home. Neville, on the other hand, is a complete mystery to me other than, this was a guy that was pushed to the moon. He was a cruiserweight champion. He held the title for a certain period of time. I believe he had his own merchandise. I mean, you got to think about this, folks. There are current talents on the rosters on both SmackDown and Raw that have zero merchandise and have had zero merchandise forever and a day. And one that I can point out just off the top of my head that's been brought back in the rotation is Alicia Fox. She has had zero merchandise since being with the WWE. And there are others that are like that too. So are we frustrated because of we're not getting the push that we think that we deserve? Are we frustrated at the writing angles? Are we frustrated, this, that, and the other? Wrap it up real quick. For me, it's like, I guess, people are allowed to be frustrated and people will be frustrated. But I also know for those 100 plus that are signed, how many more are in the pipeline just waiting for you to become frustrated enough to say, I've had enough and leave so that they can take that roster spot? It's not like there's not people waiting in the wings.
Oh, no, and don't get me wrong. That's they're always going to have people. It's always going to be a destination. If you have 5 leave today, 5 will get called up from NXT tomorrow, and 5 will be put in their place in NXT the next day.
That's
just
correct.
how the machine works. Just like to paraphrase CM Punk, when CM Punk said it, he could leave, he could go elsewhere, but the machine will keep rolling on. And it has. It always will.
Yeah,
it just look at all the guys that your favorite wrestlers come and gone through there, and or he might still be there, but
how prophetic was Punk?
Just how it is. Oh yeah, he was a prophet, but I honestly think that more wrestlers are going to look at guys like Sami Callihan and Cody Rhodes, and to different extents, what Chris Hero and Drew Galloway had did, where they left, made a bigger name, and they came back with a bigger buzz on them than they had when they were there. I think people are seeing the paychecks that Cody Rhodes is getting, and they're going, if Cody Rhodes could do that, why can't I? If Sami Callihan could go and be in Bola right away, why can't I? If Jimmy Jacobs could get fired and show up in Ring of Honor that weekend, why can't I? Why would I rather be on Main Event once every 2 months or wrestling in front of fans at Ring of Honor and selling merchandise on Pro Wrestling Tees every day.
But you and I both know that that's not going to happen with everybody that goes. And it's already not happened with everybody that goes. We can throw the comparison between Cody Rhodes and Jack Swagger. Okay? Cody Rhodes is, rode the lightning bolt, whereas Jack Swagger is on cards, but has not caught that momentum or that buzz that Rhodes did. It's not going to work like that for everyone.
And that's the thing. You have to survey the landscape. Will a guy like Neville be successful? Maybe going back to New Japan, wrestling in England. I don't know why I said Egypt. But
wrestling in the pumpkin patch.
Wrestling in pumpkin patches, and maybe even wrestling in Egypt. I think a guy like him, he could do his cruiserweight shtick. He'd be great for the Super Juniors tournaments. Be a great guy to go up against the likes of Ricochet and Will Ospreay and all the great super cruiserweights out there.
Right.
But I digress. And speaking of guys like Jimmy Jacobs selling their shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees, there are 2 Live from the Armory T-shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees. You can find them by going under podcasts, going under FNX Network. You can see both of our beautiful shirts as well as several others under the FNX flag. Very cool shirts, very nice, reasonably priced, good quality shirts made by a quality company. If you want to represent Live from the Armory and you want people to know you're a fan, that's the way to do it. Grab a T-shirt, wear it out to shows. When people ask you where they got it, tell them. If people ask you, what is that Live from the Armory that I see you wearing? Send them our way. Maybe we'll gain some new listeners. Maybe so. Or someone will say you should donate that to the local Salvation Army. One of the two. Hey, either way. Either way. And, either way, it suits a purpose one way or the other. Exactly. And hey, if you don't like the shirt, it's uncomfortable, it's ugly, people look at you nasty when you're wearing it, you can always use it to wax and wash your car with. Just saying, folks. That's true. That is true. Now, going back to a gentleman we just mentioned a few minutes ago, I see that CM Punk is officially in training now for another MMA fight. Questions were, was he going to do it again after what happened with Mickey Gall and how quickly he was defeated? Yeah. I applaud the guy chasing his dreams. I think the Mickey Gall thing was they caught a fighter that was better than they thought he was going to be, and they put him in the ring with a guy that he shouldn't have been in. CM Punk by no means should be on the UFC level. If he was just Phil Brooks, he'd be on some local nothing MMA card in Chicago Hills this weekend. But since he's Phil Brooks and he's going to drive pay-per-view buys, and he's CM Punk and everybody knows and loves him, they forced a square peg into a round hole. And I think this time they might be a little, more cautious with who they put him in with. Maybe put someone more of a similar skill set in with him. Now, is this going to be a UFC fight, George, or has it been said? It hasn't, but he is under UFC contract. Now, I do know that UFC, I'm not sure exactly which ones, but they have several lesser MMA companies that are under the UFC banner that he could go to potentially. Or they could stash him on the undercard of a title fight. I think that you're right. I mean, and we talked about this when he originally fought Mickey for the UFC. It was a money grab. It was a ticket draw. It was a payout, not only for Mickey and Phil and Dana White. It was a payout for everybody involved. I mean, there was plenty of money to go around. You're taking a guy that, was a professional wrestler, and you're transporting him into the pinnacle of that particular genre's fighting arena. It would be like taking
a kid from high school and transplanting him into the NFL week one. The two just, I don't care how much training you have. Everybody has to work their way up, just the way he worked his way up through the ranks of wrestling, wrestling in the independents and going on and finally getting a shot at the WWE. More than likely what should have happened is that he should have had some undercard fights on, some either local shows, semi-national shows, even if you had to use a pseudonym, just to get used to it. You're going to throw him underneath the bright lights. And I know what it was about. You and I both know it was all about the money. It was about a money grab. You're going to throw him underneath the lights. And that was that.
At that point, I think it was either the biggest draw in UFC history or one of the top 5 pay-per-views in UFC history.
Well, it had crossover appeal. You had fans everywhere that wanted it. The wrestling fans tuned into it because they were hoping beyond hope he was going to go in there and put this guy in the GTS and, walk out, champion. I mean, it was ludicrous to me. I mean, the guy wanted to give it a try. I'm not knocking him. He wanted to give it a try. He was given opportunity. It didn't work out the way that he wanted it to work out. And the people go back to train. This time, take an undercard fight on a non-pay-per-view for a smaller promotion and let's see how that works out. That's my only suggestion. I mean, I'm not going to do it. I'm not knocking the guy. He wanted to do it, so he did it. But let's call it what it is. It was money.
He's got bigger grapefruits than I do, because I could tell you, I think CM Punk is either the same age as me or a year older or younger. And I could tell you I'm getting to that age where the bones in the body don't heal so well. So he's definitely got big grapefruits to try it out, or big pumpkins to stay on the theme.
I agree.
Speaking about a guy that seemingly has no fear, I've seen rumors this week of a friend of the show, Ricochet, and his future, and that rumors are that come January, when his Lucha Underground contract is up, he'll be signing with WWE, and he's supposedly putting this out there. Now, whether that's off his scuttlebutt, this has long been rumored that the WWE is interested in Ricochet. The Lucha Underground contract kind of tied him into place with them. From what I understand, it was a bad contract for him, and it's part of the reason why we don't see guys like Phoenix or Pentagon Jr. on other shows, because they're stuck in that contract and can't work televised shows anywhere else.
All right.
I think, and in my opinion, Ricochet needs to stay as far away from the WWE as humanly possible.
Give me in a nutshell why. Give it to me.
Well, there's 2 reasons, Bob. For one, the WWE is not going to let Ricochet wrestle the way that Ricochet wrestles.
Correct.
They might let him get off one, maybe 2 high spots a match, but he's not going to be able to beat Ricochet. You're not going to see the 630 or the 640s, the double moonsaults, the moonsault into a double stomp. You're not. They're just not going to let him do that. So once you take that away from him, you take away from him what makes him special, what makes him different. The fact that he is one of the most gifted high flyers that we've ever seen. I mean, I can't honestly name another person that's been able to pull off the moves that he can do. Yeah. Another reason, I honestly think that Ricochet in New Japan can make more money, become more popular, and have a more prominent role in the company than he ever could in WWE. I don't see WWE ever pushing him to the moon. I don't see them making him anything more than the face of their cruiserweight division, which I'm not knocking at all. That's a decent position. But I could see Ricochet in New Japan being pulled out of the juniors like a Kenny Omega has, like other guys have, and being put in with the heavyweights and challenging for their main title and being one of the aces of the company. Just the differences I see, and it's all based on his ring style, and the skill the man has.
I would agree with you in the sense. No, and I would agree with you in the sense that common sense prevailing, I would have to believe that given his schedule and where he works, not only for New Japan but for Lucha Underground and his independent shows, being able to set his own schedule, it would be and his private merchandise sales. I would be hard pressed to believe him coming in at an entry level WWE contract that he would make more with the WWE. Now, again, you have to remember, if he does sign with the WWE, he's going to be put in NXT. And we've already talked about this before. Your tenure at NXT could be anywhere from 1 year to 4 years. I already know what the base salary is for people that sign with NXT. I'm not going to give it away on the show because, quite frankly, that's not my job. There is no merchandise at the NXT level that I'm aware of. So we're going to sit from 1 to 4 years at a base salary and nothing more. Then we're going to wait for a spot to open up on the main roster. How are we going to be brought in? Are we going to be brought in as a cruiserweight? Are we going to be brought into as a heavyweight or a heavyweight contender? Are we going to sign a percentage deal for merchandise? Am I going to get merchandise right away? There are several variables that are involved. I don't see financially where it's at in his best interest, unless interest is waning, doesn't seem to be at the New Japan level or at Lucha Underground or on the independents. I don't see that interest waning or wavering at all. I think he's one of those mysteries that people, the WWE has had their eye on him for 3 or 4 years now. And I would not be surprised if offers haven't already been made and they've been turned down. That's just my opinion. That's not fact. It's my opinion. It's all relative as to timing. Everything in wrestling is about timing. Is it the right time? Is it the best fit financially for him and what he wants to achieve in his life? I see how in a 5-year term that he could financially be any better off than where he's at right now. That's just my opinion. So.
I tend to agree. And the last thing I wanted to bring up is something that I keep seeing coming up, but it keeps being an issue, and it's how fans of wrestlers treat wrestlers in public. Now, I understand and Bob understands we're just as much fans as you guys are. If I'm at a restaurant and I see Kevin Owens eating with his family, or Ricochet, or Kenny Omega, or Mick Foley, or anybody you want to place in there, or someone that you hold in high esteem, of course you're going to be excited. Of course you're going to want to go over there and say hello, either tell them thank you for what they do or ask for an autograph or picture. You do have to remember, folks, when you see these people in public, they're human beings just like you and I. They're not cattle. They may have just got off of a 6-hour flight. They may have just came home. That dinner that you're interrupting with their family, maybe the first family dinner they've had in 3 months because they've been on the road. Just try and remember these things as you're going up. Most of them are going to be okay with you waiting till their dinner's done and saying, hey, Ricochet, I think you're amazing. I just wanted to come over and say thank you for what you do. If you have a second, will you take a picture with me? If not, I understand. Shaking his hand and walking away. Most of them are going to be okay with that. Some of the stuff that we see, where we see people pushing 4 or 5 pictures in front of them and asking them to sign all 5, or waiting for them in the bathroom when they're trying to wash their hands to turn around and take a selfie with them, or just being intrusive. And that's just the males we're talking about. Like we talked a few weeks ago, the women get it twice as bad. The women not only deal with that, but they deal with guys that, for some strange reason, want to talk to them worse than they've ever talked to any other woman in their life, and think that somehow that's okay. And I just want to put it out there because you constantly see it on Twitter, you constantly see it on Facebook. It's the fans that are doing this, that are being obnoxious, that are only wanting to get 20 autographs because they're selling 15 of them on eBay.
Uh-huh.
Those are the ones that are ruining it for the rest of us. The rest of us fans that, maybe Caprice Coleman likes to go to the Chuck E. Cheese around the corner from your house. So
I have a hard
saying
time
hi
believing
Caprice,
that, but okay.
You never know. They might have a good deal on pizza. And
that's true.
You might just enjoy that. It just name of a place that came out. In Madland.
Okay.
Came out.
All right. Okay.
Adam Page might
keep you in check.
Adam Page.
I'll keep you in check.
Adam Page might buy his rope from your local Home Depot. Is that more plausible for you?
That
doesn't
correct.
mean he's probably looking at that as a 15-minute trip, not a 2-hour tour where he's signing 15 autographs. So keep in mind, these are real people. These are people that have lives. Look at the situation. Look at the surroundings. Assess how you would feel if someone would come up to you in that same situation, requesting what you're about to request.
Basically,
and then go forward with that.
Basically, what George is telling you is not to be a stalker like he is and hang out at the airport at 4 o'clock in the morning and try to get pictures with people as they're gathering up their luggage. At any rate, I see that our guest for this evening is on the line, Mr. Coles, and I don't want to keep this young man waiting. Very excited to have this gentleman on the show. And if I have this correct, I would like to welcome to the program Mr. Jonny Flex. Johnny, are you there, sir?
Yes, sir. Hello.
How are you this evening? You there?
Doing good. How about you?
Not too bad for a Wednesday night. Not too bad for a Wednesday night at all. With me on the other end of the line is the guest co-host of this show, George Coles. George, you want to say hello to Jonny Flex?
Johnny, welcome to the show, my friend, and I think we're going to have a really fun time.
I think so, too. Thank you.
Johnny, I want to start right off, and I want to play devil's advocate. And I want to ask, how many times were you told that you were too small to be in wrestling, and how did it affect your mindset early on?
Honestly, I was told too many times that I just stopped counting. But didn't really affect me negatively. It just made me want to push myself more and show everyone up. Show them I could do it.
Yeah, I can understand that. Who offered words of encouragement to you to forget about the naysayers? Who was there in your corner?
Honestly, not really that many people. I did have a few family members that saw I was really serious in pursuing wrestling, so they were more on my side than others.
Well, it's always good to have family in the corner. You can't always deny that. Now, you are a product of the WildKat School of Professional Wrestling, ran by Mr. Luke Hawks. There are a multitude of wrestling schools out there now. It's not like it was in the old days. Having had the opportunity to travel and work for other promotions, what do you think that WildKat offered that others weren't as far as training is concerned?
I'd say WildKat's more serious about it. Because Luke, me and him not really seeing eye to eye recently. I got to get to wrestle him in November once again, even though I've already beaten him like twice.
Right.
But Luke wants to take WildKat to the next level. He wants to bring WildKat to the top of the wrestling business. And that's one of those things that I can get behind, that I can support. WildKat's more of a family. They're closer than a lot of other wrestling promotions.
One of the topics this week has been wrestlers who achieve the WWE contract only to become, I guess the word I'm looking for is dissatisfied with where they are. Your thoughts on this, and why are so many wrestlers being as vocal as they are about it. I mean, we've heard Neville go on a little bit about some things. Obviously, Cody Rhodes is not afraid to use social media and his thoughts on certain subjects. Why do you think we're seeing what we're seeing?
Probably because we're kind of in the age where WWE isn't the place. Like, it's where a lot of people want to go, but it's kind of showing that it's not really the place you have to end up. You have so many other opportunities in other countries, like Japan and England.
Do you think that the fans are tired of this PG era that we're in when they see, and maybe perhaps the style of wrestling when they're seeing so many different other styles being offered?
I mean, they're really vocal about not wanting to be PG, but at WWE's targeted towards kids because at the end of the day, parents are going to do whatever it takes to keep their kids happy. So it's the way I feel it's a business model that kind of works.
Yeah, that's true. We got to remember it's a publicly traded company. Johnny, you want to take a call from a listener? You feel like doing that tonight?
Sure.
Let's take a look, see what we got here. 814, you're on with Live from the Armory Wrestling Show, Jonny Flex.
My question for Jonny Flex is, since he's a workout-type wrestler, do you think has the better supplement Ryback that's been pushing his supplements recently, or InfoWars, or the old IK Pro from WWF?
I'm not really sure. I don't really take too many supplements. Jonny Flex is more of a natural mass building kind of guy.
I hear you.
And my other question for you is, how did Maryland Championship Wrestling get so involved with WildKat? Because I noticed a lot of the Maryland Championship wrestlers wrestle on your shows.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Maryland Championship Wrestling, I noticed, brings a lot of its talent to WildKat to wrestle. How did that working agreement come about? Because I noticed an awful lot of their wrestlers come down and travel pretty far to WildKat.
I'm not really sure. I'm left in the dark on a lot of that stuff. I know when we were up in Philadelphia for our show at the old ECW arena, we had a couple guys go to Maryland to wrestle.
All right. 814, thank you very much for your call tonight.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, Maryland Championship Wrestling isn't the only other promotion that WildKat Sports has worked in conjunction with. You guys have done some talent work together with Booker T's Reality of Wrestling over the course of the last year. What's that like working with guys from other promotions, Johnny? Just, you don't have to pull back the curtain or anything. How does that work for you guys? Is it something exciting, I guess, to have guys come in from other promotions like that?
I enjoy it because it gets some new wrestlers in.
Now, you've had the opportunity now to branch out into other areas of the country. I know you've been over to Texas and done some work. Do you feel that there is a certain area that you'd really like to get an opportunity at, but just haven't for whatever reason?
Honestly, I'd like to wrestle everywhere. I don't really care where it's at, just as long as I get to travel somewhere and wrestle.
Makes sense. What has it been like for you to have legends like Ted DiBiase, Rod Price, Bob Holly, Sam Houston, and some others come into WildKat Sports and pass on knowledge to you and the rest of the roster?
It's been incredible. It's one of those things. When I first got into wrestling, I didn't really think stuff like this would happen. But, I've enjoyed it. I've gotten to hang out with Brian Kendrick. I've gotten some very choice words from Scott Hall that I will keep in the back of my mind. That meant a lot to me. I've gotten the opportunity to wrestle Bob Holly twice, and he has also said some things that meant a lot to me.
Those things that you mentioned between Scott Hall and Bob Holly, is there something in particular that stands out that you care to share?
Honestly, I'd rather keep that to myself and just use it as motivation.
I understand. I understand completely. George, go ahead.
Now, Johnny, speaking of having legends come in, not only have they came in and worked with you guys, but you've been chosen on several occasions to be one of the guys they wrestle with. How does it feel to be put in such a prominent position and have the company back you in a way that they can trust you with those guys?
Honestly, it feels great. Like, proving that the whole "you're too small to wrestle" is just words. I'm proving that I can do this, wrestle legends, take them to their limits, and then still be able to get more matches and keep moving forward.
Definitely. And we touched on it just a little bit. Johnny, for our listeners that aren't aware, who is the Pump Patrol, and why are you three so dangerous together?
Pump Patrol, well, it's just a group of three brothers that love lifting heavy weights together, drinking protein shakes, kicking butt. And that's about as tight-knit as you can get when it comes to a team.
Definitely. And what separates yourself and the rest of the Pump Patrol from other wrestlers who proclaim to be gym rats?
Because I am a legitimate gym rat. I'm always in the gym, trying to lift heavier, trying to get bigger. Like, I practically sleep at the gym. I have a blanket and a pillow in the janitor's closet.
Right on, man. Now, keeping on the gym subject, what would be the most surprising song that you listen to in your workout playlist? What's on your iPod that would surprise fans?
Honestly, I listen to whatever, but what really gets me going is metal and rap.
Yeah, any specific bands like Metallica or 3 6 Mafia or anybody that pumps you up more than others?
I really like 3 6. And then there's a few others like lesser known rappers like Yellow Wolf, Ritz. Really big on Hobson. He definitely helps get that pump going.
Well, see, I wouldn't exactly put Hobson and working out together. But I could see it. I could see the similarities because his is more of a verbal workout, but it definitely makes sense. It definitely cool. And I have to ask you this because our normal co-host Laura, she would probably put a foot in both me and Bob's ass if one of us didn't ask. Since you've been with WildKat Sports, can you give us any funny Luke Hawk stories?
Not really, honestly.
Nobody wants to tell a funny Luke Hawk story because they're all scared to death, is what it is. Because I know him. I know he's done some schmo-headed shit, and I know it's out there, and I will find it. I will find it. Trust me.
Yeah,
I will find
I mean, I'm sure he has, but I got to wrestle him again November 4th. Like I said, I don't really need to add more fuel to the fire.
Yeah,
you don't need anything on the bulletin board. I got you. I got you. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. Johnny, you mentioned George had you mentioned the Pump Patrol. Who are the other two members of the Pump Patrol? And I know that you guys, you mentioned that, you guys hang out at the gym, drink protein shakes, kick ass. How'd you guys meet? How'd the idea of the Pump Patrol come together? What was that like?
Well, obviously, Kurt Matthews and Jared Wayne were already in the Pump Patrol together. Then one day they saw me working out at the zoo in Kenner, Louisiana, and then they just saw me hitting everything, heavy bench press, heavy deadlifts, heavy squats. And they're like, you know what? We need this kid in the Pump Patrol. We need the biggest man in pro wrestling in the Pump Patrol. And, well, that's about it.
And that's kind of how it went. How would you describe your relationship with the fans at WildKat Sports events?
I mean, if you really call it a relationship, I mean, they love me, but I couldn't really care less. I'm just there for the win.
Yeah, that's true. Some people would say that you're growing on people. Would you tend to agree with that?
I mean, I'd agree with it.
I mean, I was at the last WildKat show. I traveled down some 4.5 hours to come down to Metairie, and I saw some of the young ladies swooning in the audience as you came out. So you're not pulling anything past me. I mean, I know these things. I see these things.
I mean, hey, Jonny Flex is always going to have time for the ladies. The weights come first. The ladies, make sure you call me.
In the immortal words of Mickey, you need to stay away from the women. Women make you weak in the knees. They do that.
Hey, my squad, I have good knees.
You already mentioned this a couple of times. At WildKat Sports' 6th anniversary show, the Revolution Rumble coming up on November the 4th, the Pump Patrol will face off again against the tag team of Luke Hawks and Matt Lancey. And you're also entered in the Revolution Rumble. I'd like to get your thoughts on the event, and what are your chances of walking out with a future title shot from the Rumble?
See, considering the Pump Patrol are all entered in the Revolution Rumble, I'd say the chances of a Pump Patrol member walking out with a Revolution title shot are really good. If I had to put money on it, I'd say all three of us are going to be the final three, and we're just going to settle it with a flex off.
That would be an interesting concept. A flex off or perhaps a push-up challenge might be in order. Yeah,
I don't know if they can keep
off.
up if we do push-ups.
Probably not. Obviously, the other event that WildKat Sports has coming up is a pretty unique event, if I do say so. It is a red carpet event that is coming up, and I'm trying to get this pulled up, and I should have had it before we came on air, but I didn't. It's the Halloween special, Johnny. Can you give us a little information on that?
Yeah. On the red carpet event for our 2017 Halloween special this Friday. And, I mean, I can't really give much info away about what it consists of, but I can tell you it will definitely be electrifying.
Are the tickets for that event sold out, Johnny? I'm almost positive I saw something today from Luke that said that the tickets were sold out. Do you know if that's true or not?
I'm not sure if Luke put on Facebook that they're sold out. There's a good chance they probably are.
Yeah.
Last I heard last night, there wasn't that many left.
Yeah. The event, I have it pulled up here now, and I apologize to our listeners. The event that we're speaking of is the official WildKat Sports Halloween Spooktacular that will be held on October the 20th at the Zeitgeist Multidisciplinary Arts Center. There were very limited tickets for this particular event. If I remember right, I believe there were around 60 tickets for this. The building only holds 120 people. It was a very limited engagement. But don't let that fool you again, folks. The Evolution Rumble will be held on Saturday, November 4th at the Grace King Auditorium in Metairie, Louisiana, just outside of New Orleans. So if you're in the New Orleans area and would like to catch out a very cool show, make sure you check out the 6th anniversary show, Revolution Rumble, for WildKat Sports. Johnny, other than those events that we listed, do you have any other upcoming events that you're going to be at, that if fans want to come out and see you wrestle, where you're going to be at?
Trying to think. I believe Thanksgiving weekend I'll be in North Carolina at WrestleCade.
I'm thinking so too. I'll see you there then. I'll be traveling to there. So I'll
look
see you
forward to it.
I'll make it a point to make sure that I come up and say hello to you. Johnny, does the Pump Patrol have any merchandise that's available now?
We have new shirts out.
Are those shirts available anywhere else other than at the shows? Is it on like Pro Wrestling Tees? Or how can people contact you to purchase Pump Patrol merchandise?
I believe you can contact either Jared Wayne or Kurt Matthews about purchasing a shirt.
Okay. For fans that want to keep up with you on social media, because I know you're a social media mogul, how can they do that?
On Instagram at the Jonny Flex. Facebook is just Jonny Flex. Just send me a friend request there. Twitter I'm on and off with. That's also at the Jonny Flex, and that's about it.
Okay. And the last thing that we ask all of our guests to do, Johnny, if you could record an audio bump for us. You just got to pretend like Andrew's standing there with a camera. I just need you to say something like, "This is Jonny Flex, and you're listening to Live from the Armory Wrestling Show." And you could go when you'd like.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the biggest man in pro wrestling, the Jonny Flex from WildKat Sports, and you are listening from Live from the Armory.
That works. Johnny, thank you so much for being on the show tonight, man. We really appreciate your time. I want to wish you the best of luck coming up at the Revolution Rumble. And the worst case scenario is I will see you at WrestleCade in Winston-Salem, North Carolina on Thanksgiving weekend.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Yep. You have a good night, okay?
All right. You too.
All right.
Bye.
And there goes Jonny Flex, and we'll be back after this brief message. Hey everybody, Bunkhouse Bob and Lovely Lori here. Folks, does the man make the title, or does the title make the man? Age-old question with a simple answer. That is, if you're wearing a title made by Top Rope Belts.
Established in 2006 and with a satisfied client list, including Lucha Underground, the LA Dodgers, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ohio Valley Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, and many, many more. Top Rope Belts uses 100% custom drawings and does all of their own etching. That means quality from start to finish, folks.
Folks, whether you're a private collector, a wrestling promotion, or a business who wants a quality championship title belt, look no further than Top Rope Belts. Check them out on Facebook or visit them at www.topropebelts.com. A man of few words, Mr. Coles. He is more interested in lifting weights, drinking shakes, and kicking ass. He's very direct and to the point, Mr. Jonny Flex is. He's all about the boom, Mr. Coles.
Definitely. Straight shooter, though. Gotta like that in me.
Yeah, he's a straight shooter. Very nice guy. I think that people are taken back, maybe perhaps, about his stature, his size. Don't let the size of the package fool you, folks. Very athletic kid, very gifted kid. I shouldn't say kid, young man. In excellent shape. And I'm telling you that he works out. This young man works out like there's no tomorrow. And he is very, very well versed in the ring, which we've come to know and respect from WildKat Sports. I've had the opportunity to see Jonny not only wrestle at WildKat Sports, but I've seen him wrestle for fans that went to WrestleCade last year at the Showcase of Champions match. Jonny was there. He's branched out some, doing some work in Texas. So, it's one of those things. He's very, very young in his career, but the thing that I think that you cannot take away from him is his determination. He is very determined on making his way in a career in independent wrestling, which I applaud.
Definitely. And, he's the kind of guy that's going to keep his nose to the grindstone, and he's going to make it to exactly where he needs to be. Just like we always say, it's the passion of the people we bring on. We don't bring people on here just because they have a good name or they answered the phone call this week. We bring people on that have passion and that we think have either an interesting story to tell or are at the beginning of an interesting story, which I believe Jonny's closer to the beginning of his interesting story. But we like to get them on both ends, at the beginning, towards the end, in the middle. We like to hear all different stories, and it's all very interesting, But we look for the passion, and you can't deny the man. Look, any man that says I sleep at the gym has way more passion than I do. You and I both.
I sleep at the pumpkin patch, Mr. Coles. That's where I sleep. I sleep in the pumpkin patch.
Are we going back to the pumpkin? Oh, God.
We'll go back to the pumpkin patch.
Well, speaking about pumpkins, Bob, why don't we talk about some of the stuff that you seen this week?
We will go on and do
Mr.
that.
Great Pumpkin.
Yes, we shall do that. We shall do that. One of the things that caught my attention, and we mentioned this last week, was WWE releasing Jimmy Jacobs from his position. And last week I had said that it was all about the money. Well, it came to light that the reason why Mr. Jacobs was let go was that the WWE felt what he did was unprofessional. Felt that it was unprofessional. Folks, unprofessional is also about the money. When you are being paid by the world's largest wrestling company to be their writer, backstage producer, segment, help with promo work, all that other good stuff, and you go out and fraternize with the enemy and are unprofessional, quote unquote, then it is about the money. I'm not going to pay George Coles to work on this show and then turn around and have him call into the next show that's coming up so that he can give away all the trade secrets and sit there and take selfies with his buddies. That's not how it works. It's just not how it works. So you can call it unprofessional. You can call it whatever you want. For me, it still is. I stand by my words 100%. For me, it's still about the money. I think that I honestly believe that the WWE sees these guys. I don't know if a threat is the correct term that I want to use. I think they see them as a distraction. And by what I mean by distraction is they're a distraction from a potential ticket buy, a distraction from a potential merchandise buy. They're a distraction from using the quote-unquote intellectual property, intellectual copyright of Too Sweet and hand gestures. I think that slowly these guys are becoming a thorn in the side of the WWE. And you had mentioned this last week, and I've been entertaining this thought on and off all week. It just seems like there's an awful lot of bannering back and forth between these guys. And when I say between these guys, I mean the Bullet Club and the WWE on social media. I saw something today, about the WWE advertising the new game, the 2K18 WWE game, using the Shield coming out, using the Too Sweet hand gestures, and even putting that out in their tweet. It's almost as if the best way to beat them is to join them.
Now, you know what I found funny, and speaking of other podcasts, because I tend to listen to some, not much regular, our podcasts, and there's a couple others I listen to regular. Others, it depends on who the guest is and if I think it's going to be a good show. I happen to listen to a bit from X-Pac, his podcast where he had on Kevin Nash, and I caught an excerpt of it on YouTube where they cut out the piece of them talking about the whole Too Sweet thing and how really, if anybody should have claim for it, it should be X-Pac, because he's the one that brought it in and showed the guys, and that was their little symbol to each other, you know, basically saying hello, kind of like the Carol Burnett thing on her old show, and I'm really dating myself now. I just realized that 90% of our viewers or listeners have no idea who Carol Burnett is. But
yeah,
I digress. I find it there's something else there, and the fact that they have merchandise ready to roll so easily. I don't know if you've seen, they got the whole new One Sweet thing that they're doing now, that they started over the weekend at the Global War shows, and they already got One Sweet shirts out. They already did a thing at Global War Chicago, and spoiler if you haven't seen it, at the end of the show they went to take a Bullet Club selfie, but nobody brought a camera, so let's go and see a fan that wants to take a selfie with the Bullet Club, and lo and behold, it's Jimmy Jacobs. So, I don't know, I think it all ties into exactly what we were talking about with the Exodus. Some people have got to WWE, and they've got behind the curtains in Oz and found out it's not what it's cracked up to be. That they were more happy in Ring of Honor or in New Japan or WildKat or PWX or wherever they may have come from, and that they're, like you said, there is a base salary, and I'd be willing to bet a guy like Jimmy Jacobs, being a top indie guy, makes more as a top indie guy than he does as a WWE fighter.
I would tend to agree. I mean, I think it's all about on how much you're willing to invest in yourself. On how much you're willing to invest in yourself. I mean, you take a look at guys like, you know, the Young Bucks and Joey Ryan and Ricochet and several others who are doing well because of their ability to market themselves and market their merchandise, and they pick their spots, and, you know, it works. And everybody was like, you know, with the Jimmy Jacobs thing at Ring of Honor, like, how can he be at Ring of Honor? Well, you know, the guy wasn't signed to the WWE as a wrestler. He doesn't have a compete clause. Now, he probably did have some type of a no-compete clause as far as his writing is concerned with the WWE, but I'm more than sure that Ring of Honor made sure that there was a paid ticket in his pocket. The guy can go to a show, sit in the crowd as a fan, you know.
Yeah,
so
they're more than welcome to have fans take pictures with them, too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. If you notice, I don't know if you've seen it, Bob, but they were very careful. Not one person said his name.
Yeah,
the people that were saying his name were the crowd chanting it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's legalities that are involved there as well. And, you know, speaking of smart, it wasn't less than 24 hours later, folks. Jimmy Jacobs had 2 shirts up on Pro Wrestling Tees.
Boom.
So, you know, you tell me.
He goes to that old, I call it the Colt Cabana school of merchandising, where everything's an opportunity.
Oh yeah, brother. If we can sell a rubber band with our name on it, we're going to do it. A paper clip, doesn't matter. A pin, whatever it is, a pencil, anything that'll make a buck, because it's about at the end of the day, you are the business.
And these are the guys that are really pushing the envelope, making it so that you don't need the WWE. You could score a deal with Pro Wrestling Tees and be a top-selling shirt there and make a decent amount of money. Or you can put out DVDs like Colt Cabana did with the Pro Wrestling Diary series, or, do all the different things the Young Bucks have with Hot Topic and the Funko Pops, and now all this other stuff. All these other avenues that 5-10 years ago weren't there. I want to say that I really believe it's Colt Cabana and Joey Ryan were the guys that kicked the door down for this kind of stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I've always sided more with Joey Ryan, just in the sense of the thing that caught me with him was, the whole TNA thing. Joey Ryan has a video camera and a YouTube channel, the 87%, and just on and on and on and on and on. Another guy that doesn't get a lot of credit is Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder, was ahead of his time, with YouTube and doing his, his Long Island shtick, and it just so happens that, he's been in tenure with the WWE for some time now, and evidently he's content with where he's at. I think that if someone left, like a Zack Ryder and did the independent routine, dude, he could make a ton of money, an absolute ton of money.
And that's one of the things that always baffled me. They have him on their roster. He built this fan base without them having to really put that much behind him. He built that all on his own.
Yeah.
Yet, where do you see him? You see him in comedy matches, in the openers, in the battle royals, and
well, his crowning moment was winning the IC title, at WrestleMania. That was his crowning. That's his WrestleMania moment. That's his crowning achievement in professional wrestling, and I'm not knocking that. I'm not knocking that.
No, not knocking him at all. But for a guy that, like you said, was on the forefront of that whole YouTube and social media, he was a guy that was out there. He was the first wrestler that I can remember doing their own YouTube show, putting their own videos up. Now, you got all different kind of guys and different promotions that are doing it now. He was out there when he didn't have merchandise. He was finding other ways to make money, to get fans involved, being on Twitter all the time. And now it's ubiquitous. Every wrestler has to have a Twitter.
Maybe he's working behind the scenes, helping them in the social media department. I don't know what's all involved with his deal. It wouldn't surprise me if he was. I mean, the guy's smart.
They'd be dumb not to tap into him. Yeah. I mean, it would be stupid. That'd be like me saying, Bob, I own this company that sells soda, and I got this one worker over here that seems to sell the most diet soda 10 times more than anybody else, with all the same tools that everybody else has. I'm going to talk to that guy and see what he's doing that other people aren't, and I'm going to have him teach the others how to do it his way. Because obviously his way worked. It's proven. I mean, there's still Zack Ryder fanatics out there that are.
Oh, absolutely.
You can see it all the time. Every time it gets shown on TV, you get the woo woo woo. You get the they should be treating Zack better. Zack deserves more. When he's not on TV for a while, you get where's Zack? Where's Zack Ryder? WWE put Zack Ryder on TV.
Well, I think the reason behind that, George, I think the guy's a legit nice guy. Number one, and number two, you've never heard him say a bad thing. He's a good soldier. He does what he's supposed to do, and I think that's part of the fascination with him.
Definitely.
One of the, I know we'll get messages about this, and so I want to throw this in real quick. Mm-hmm. Don't take my word for it. Don't take George's word for it. Don't take Laura's word for it. Look at Austin Aries, who put out on Twitter this past week that his 6 months worth of bingo hall money was better than his last 6 months of WWE money. So don't take my word for it. It's not that, you have to trust what I'm telling you, even though I know I'm right. Listen to the people that are actually living it. It's right there on his Twitter.
See, Bob, people get this misconception that if you're on television, you're making a lot of money.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, a guy like Kenny Omega, there's only 2 or 3 guys in the WWE making more money than him. Guys like the Young Bucks, there's no tag team in the WWE that's making more money than him. Guys like Ricochet, I guarantee there's no one on that 205 live roster that makes as much money as Ricochet does right now.
Listen, you know what? People
you.
can Google. Yeah, people can Google this. I'll go on and tell you what I know. People can Google this because I really don't think that it's that big of a trade secret. The average base salary, and I think I've mentioned this on the show before, the average base salary for somebody going into NXT, no merchandise deal, is $30,000 a year. $30,000 a year. Okay? That's the average base salary. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody is, but that's the average, $30,000 a year. What a lot of people don't realize when you go up to the WWE level, there is a bump in money, but unless you're a big name that is negotiated, been there for several years and has negotiated this into your contract, your travel expenses aren't covered. You pay for your travel, then you turn that back in on your taxes. So when you see these people that's why you see a lot of them, what's that show they do, George, the car ride show? Where they all, you got 3 or 4 of them in a car together. Ride along. It's not because it's a concept for a new television program. It's because that's the way that they travel. It's cheaper to get 4 people to split a rental car than it is for one person. So you get talents later on like John Cena and the Bellas and all that. They wanted a bus. So they get a bus. Others put in that they want to fly. And that's how they negotiate and make a little bit better money because they don't have to pay for their travel.
Exactly.
I don't think a lot of people understand that. And then you throw merchandise on top of it. That could be anywhere from maybe a 7 to 10% split between the talent and the promotion. So we're talking 10% to the talent, 90% to the WWE on merchandise.
And let's be honest. If you get a shirt through WWE, it's a shirt that WWE's made, prepared, and stylized for you in the style they want.
Correct. There's very, very little creative input.
Whereas the Live from the Armory shirts that you can find on Pro Wrestling Tees have full creative input by all 3 of us, and also Ryan and Kane. And all of the FNX shirts. That's why you tend to see the shirts that wrestlers actually make for themselves. The Gymnasty Boys have some really cool T-shirts. I don't think any of their stuff's on Pro Wrestling Tees, but you can check them out. Joey Ryan has some really cool T-shirts he makes. I mean, these guys know what their fans want and know what's not going to sell, whereas WWE could say to you, okay, your nickname's a Pitbull, so we're going to put a Pitbull on your shirt. And then we're going to sell it that this dog doesn't bark or something. It's going to be the catchphrase, where your fans are looking for something a little bit different.
Right.
And then if that shirt doesn't sell, you don't get a second shirt.
Exactly.
Whereas if you mess up on your own shirt, you could go back to the T-shirt designers and say, hey, let's design something else, see what can work on this one.
And then so people are going to say, well, how is it that guys, on the independents can be making more money? Well, if you take somebody that's prudent about their bookings and they're booked in certain areas of the country and work out the geography and the logistics and the travel on this, feasibly you can wrestle. There are some places that are running shows on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. So you've got 5 opportunities based on where you're at to be at a show. And they're like, well, I hear guys on the independents are working for $40 and a handshake, or $50 and a hot dog. That may be true for some performers, or it may be true in certain areas. I personally know what the Young Bucks were charging 3 years ago. Per guy, per show.
It's not a little bit.
It's not a little bit. I'm not going to divulge that information here. You guys are going to have to do a little of your own legwork on this. I can tell you. I can tell you it's 4 digits. I can tell you that.
I could tell you for certain that $30,000 bar that you just mentioned, the Young Bucks clear that in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just so you know. And I know there's 2 of them.
Yeah.
But that's people aren't taking into account if Bob wrestles for Booker T's promotion on Friday, right? And it's been the first time that Bob's been in there in 5 months. His T-shirts are going to sell out. His postcards are going to sell out. His DVDs and rings are going to sell out. People are going to buy the ticket and autograph signing. And all of a sudden that, let's say Booker T paid Bob $100. It doesn't sound like much, but he just made $2,500 off of merchandise sales.
Exactly.
It sounds a lot different now, doesn't it? That $40 in a hot dog doesn't sound so bad when you're selling 30, 40 T-shirts, or if you're selling 48 by 10s.
Right. But and again,
or
this
if you're
goes
George South, you're selling everything that's not bolted down.
That's true. But again, this is working for certain guys, and it brings me back to the whole Neville thing. My personal thought on Neville leaving, I think he's delusional myself. I don't see. Granted, the guy's a great talent, a great in-ring worker. I just do not see him catching fire like some others have done before him on the independent scene. If he wants to go out and build a bigger name, I think his draw will probably lie overseas. I just don't see that big push here in the States. I don't feel it. We'll put it that way.
Well, let's talk to comparisons. You got Neville. You put him out there. The comparisons would be Ricochet and Will Ospreay. That would be the class he would be in. Wouldn't you agree?
As far as ring style, yes.
Okay, so I would say both Ricochet and Will Ospreay and some of the other juniors around the world have more of a defined gimmick and more of a defined personality.
Right.
What can you tell me about Neville other than the fact that he's an amazing athlete, which is a lot. That means a lot. That's going to get you at a lot of places. But when you got 3 other guys on the card that can do exactly what you do, you need something to separate yourself.
Exactly.
Ricochet,
He's not going to go out on the independents and build as king of the cruiserweights. We'll put it that way. He's not going to go out with that moniker.
You already got guys out there that can do exactly what he does and more.
Maybe a Game of Thrones gimmick might work. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just saying.
As long as you bend the knee, Bob. As long as you bend the knee, it's all right. As long as he's not the Pumpkin King.
No. And I hear what you're saying. There needs to be some build up for this guy. I mean, sure, he's going to be initial bookings just based off of the promotion of former WWE talent, former, cruiserweight champion. Sure, that will there be bookings? Absolutely. But are we talking about that, on fire type, booking that's happened for some that have left? No, I just don't. I personally don't see it. I think his better fortune would lie working overseas, going back and working in the UK, maybe, doing some work for New Japan or another, Noah, another promotion in Japan, something like that, maybe going to Australia, doing some work overseas and creating a buzz there, and then maybe trying to come back to the States at a later date. That would be my thought. The other thing, the last thing that I saw this week, George, was, and we had mentioned this after the injury occurred, it would appear that Bubba Ray, Bully Ray, whichever moniker you want to call him by, has retired from in-ring competition due to medical issues, most recently a concussion sustained at Ring of Honor. There are a lot of people that would like to see him stay on at Ring of Honor in some capacity, working backstage behind the scenes. I think that's a high probability. The other thing is, he has 2 wrestling schools that he runs with Devon. He has other interests that are going on. I know that he would work well with Tommy Dreamer and the House of Hardcore, which seems to be gaining more momentum. So there are other options. There are other avenues for him to be available in. I just think at this point in time, given the history of concussions, what we know about concussions today, to be able to step away with all of his faculties still available to him is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all.
No, and it's one of those bittersweet things, you know. Here's a guy for 20 years that I know personally, and I know you have as well, have enjoyed watching and enjoyed the different twists and turns in his career, whether it be the Aces and Eights, whether it be this Ring of Honor run, whether it be the Dudley Boys, whether, you know, no matter what incarnation, he's always been entertaining and always put on a hell of a show and made it worth the fan seeing going out there for him. I don't know, Bob, if it's the fan in me that doesn't want to see him hang him up, that's wanting to say that this is all a big work, and it's gonna turn out that he comes out and beats Jay Briscoe at Final Battle, and then maybe retires there. Maybe it's the concussion itself and how it happened, and seeing all the stuff that he went through the years, and just I don't know. To me, it doesn't feel like this is the end.
Well,
even if it's some kind of on-screen role, I think it would be great if he stayed with Ring of Honor and worked with Ian Riccaboni as a permanent color commentator, because they seem to be rotating people out in and out, whether it be B.J. Whitmer or Cole Cabana, who both do a great job, but are both still active wrestlers.
Right.
Why not put a guy like Bully Ray who could do that at a permanent stand? He can run his wrestling show. Plus, you have him there at Ring of Honor. What better guy to teach every wrestler on your roster than a guy that's been everywhere and done everything? And
I think you're right.
Laura's going to kill me. But he's one half of the greatest tag team of all time. You can't deny that. I had to get it in.
I know that you did. You want to go on and read down this week's indie events?
Definitely. Speaking of Ring of Honor presents Philadelphia Excellence. Friday, October 20th at the 2300 Arena, a.k.a. the ECW Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Info on that can be found at www.rohwrestling.com. Shine presents Shine 46. Friday, October 20th at the Orpheum in Ybor City, Florida. You can find info on that at www.wwnlive.com. ECWA presents the 4th Annual Women's Super 8 Chick Fight. Saturday, October 21st at the Woodbury Heights Community Center in Woodbury Heights, New Jersey. Info for that show can be found at www.ecwaprowrestling.com. Ignite Wrestling presents Monsters Brawl. Saturday, October 21st at the Walking Tree Brewery in Vero Beach, Florida. Info for that can be found at www.ignitewrestling.com. You might see a guest co-host at that show this weekend. If you do, come up and say hello. I'm willing to shake hands and say hi to everybody. Just remember what I talked about earlier. Next up, we have Reality of Wrestling presents Booker T's Halloween Boo Bash. Saturday, October 21st at the World Gym Arena in Texas City, Texas. Info on that can be found at www.realityofwrestling.com. And last but certainly not least, PWX presents Unsanctioned. Saturday, October 21st at the Kybarris Arena in Concord, North Carolina. Info for that can be found at www.pwxpro.com.
I had already thrown out on social media the ECWA, the 4th annual Women's Super 8. My pick for that to win is Karen Q. And at the PWX event for Unsanctioned, I think that this particular time, I believe that Corey Hollis will get the best of John Schuyler in that unsanctioned street fight. I'm picking the upset, if you want to call it that. Corey Hollis walks away with a win against John Schuyler, just so that you know, Mr. Coles.
That is definitely a hot take on that. I could see it going either way. I think it's Corey Hollis' time. I agree with you. But I see it going either way. It's a hell of a fight either way. All these cards are really exciting. I know the Ignite card that I plan on attending on Saturday is stacked from top to bottom. If you're not familiar with Ignite, go check it out. If you're in the Florida area on the east coast of the state, take a look at their card. You can see exactly what I'm talking about. It's a who's who on that card. I can't, for the life of me, I can't think of any specific matches off the top of my head. But I know that the talent that's going to be there is some of the top talent in all of Florida and some of the top talent in all of the country as well. And I have to agree with you with Karen Q. I think it's her turn. I think she's a little bit under the radar right now, Bob, and I think that radar is about to show a giant blip because there's a huge star that's about to be made with her, and I think that might be her coming out party.
I believe that you may be correct. And pay attention, folks, to Twitter and Facebook this weekend. We will announce next week's guest on Twitter and Facebook. We will announce that on Saturday. We're very excited to have this person on the show. It is a returning guest, and we have a lot of things to talk about that's going on with her and wrestling, and also some social questions. We're going to dive around and dig around a little bit into some other areas with this particular guest next week. So make sure that you tune in to Twitter at From the Armory and on Facebook when we announce on Saturday our guest for next week. Do you have anything that you would like to add, Mr. Coles, before we wrap this up?
Just another huge thank you to Jonny Flex, and a huge thank you to Bob for having me on yet again. And get well soon, Laura. We need you back because, as you can see, all it took was a little bit of pumpkin to throw me off of my trail.
Folks, we thank you very much for listening tonight, no matter how you've listened to the show. If you listened as we recorded this live on Blog Talk Radio, if you catch us on iTunes, on Stitcher, on YouTube, or if you go over to www.fnx.network, you can check out our show and a lot of other great shows over on the network. Make sure you check that out. We'll be back here next Wednesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. And remember, there's never a bad seat here in the pumpkin patch. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Whoop, whoop.
You have been listening to Live from the Armory Wrestling Show, the premier podcast of indie wrestling. Listen to us on blogtalkradio.com every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at From the Armory. We're also streamed worldwide on www.fnx.network. And we're also available on Stitcher. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/live.armory.9. If you like what you hear, please take a few moments to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. Thank you for listening. See you next week.
Sonic's cheeseburger and handmade onion rings have been a classic duo for years, almost as long as these classic duos we can't legally say, like Bonnie and Jekyll and Romeo and. With Sonic's Car Hop Classic, you can get a cheeseburger and onion rings for $2.99. It's. Hey, you weren't supposed to bleep that part out. Seriously? Can we stop with the bleeps? The Sonic Car Hop Classic for $2.99. It's. That's worse. Okay, I kind of like that one. Tax not included. See menu for details. For a limited time only at participating Sonic drive-ins. Sonic's cheeseburger and handmade onion rings have been a classic duo for years, almost as long as these classic duos we can't legally say, like Bonnie and Jekyll and Romeo and. With Sonic's Car Hop Classic, you can get a cheeseburger and onion rings for $2.99. It's. Hey, you weren't supposed to bleep that part out. Seriously? Can we stop with the bleeps? The Sonic Car Hop Classic for $2.99. It's. That's worse. Okay, I kind of like that one. Tax not included. See menu for details. For a limited time only at participating Sonic drive-ins.